In this episode, we go over our community spotlight with our friend, Justin Clarke. We talk about his Twitch streaming, his YouTube video, and a few things that are going to be coming down the pipe on his channel. We also get to talk about some Heresy gaming in the local scene.
Welcome to Trident Wargaming, a podcast dedicated to all aspects of tabletop wargaming. Your hosts are Bill and Andy.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Trident Wargaming. This is episode 26. I am your host Bill, and I'm joined with my co-host Andy.
Hey guys.
And we're also joined with a special community guest, the one and only Mr. Justin Clarke.
Good evening, or whatever time of the day it is where you are.
So, Justin, it's good to have you on the channel. Thanks for jumping in with us. Justin is one of our friends down in Calgary, and he's, pretty involved with the tabletop wargaming community. I guess for starters, what's on the workbench right now for you guys? What have you guys been working on?
Right now, we're starting to see things open up as restrictions relax. So we're starting to actually see people get games in. I think I got my first game in last week or 2 weeks ago, and it was the first one I'd played since October.
Oh, nice.
So that was nice.
Oh, wow.
We played 1,500 points of Horus Heresy, and I probably would have won the game, but my Praetor and his squad decided that they wanted to deep strike off of the table and be gone for the entire game. So when you lose 23% of your army in the second turn because of a deep strike, it kind of hampers things. But it was close. It was a 2-0 loss. So
nice.
I was happy with that. A lot less points than I see in 40k games nowadays, that's for sure.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. No doubt. Yeah. And are you still rocking Sons of Horus, or...?
No, I've been playing my Loyalist Death Guard still.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So I'd painted them up, and I've got a Sons of Horus and I've got Night Lords, but I've just never gotten around to doing that. It's kind of like, I know when COVID first started and people were in lockdowns, but I was an essential worker the whole time I've been essential. So there was never any lockdowns for me. If anything, it was my kids were home all the time. So there was a lot less hobby for me in that respect. But so I've been rocking the Loyalist Death Guard because it's nice. I've got about 3,000 points plus painted of them. And they sit at the local game store in a display case.
Nice.
That promotes my commission painting and stuff and shows off what I can do. And it's nice to be able to just show up at the store and be like, oh, hey, my army's already here. What are we going to use today?
Awesome. And if memory serves me correctly, this is the Loyalist Death Guard that you had the Fellblade painted up and everything, I believe?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Just want to make sure it wasn't just pretending to remember that.
It was an army that I bought and then sold and then bought back from the person I sold it to and then added more units to it. I think I painted, inside of 4 weeks of effort, I put together a 3,000 point army. So
very nice.
That's no small feat. Wow.
Yeah, it's amazing what you can do with oils and airbrushes, though. So.
Oh, and that's the army for it too. Just their style of armor and whatnot, and how gritty they can be and stuff. Definitely a good choice for that.
Yeah, they were a lot of fun to do too. And when I first started painting this stuff, I was just doing it for a friend. So, it's not like a big money commission. So I'm kind of trying to chunk through this stuff as fast as I could. And then I was like, well, I got all this stuff back and I want to add some more to it. I might as well just stick with the same scheme because worst case, it's a good army to lend out. It's kind of built a little more competitive than I might like to play my own armies.
Okay.
So, it's veterans of the Long War, combi Meltivets, Leviathan in a drop pod with siege drill and cyclonic melt-a-lance. It's like, okay, this isn't super fluffy, but It's also just kind of nice to have something that's quick and easy to play. And at least when you're lending an army to somebody to try out, it's like, well, at least you're not giving you crap, or where you really got to work at it to win.
Well, for sure. For sure. That's always good. I definitely feel it on the no lockdown essential worker part. I know myself, it was pretty much working the whole time as well. And, with the kids at home and whatnot, I was trying to get that hobby time in, but managed to sneak some in here and there, either waking up early or staying up way too late. But it worked out all right. It worked out all right. Lately for me, it's been pretty much trudging through some BattleTech and getting the last little bits and bobs built up for my zone board so I can actually start getting that thing airbrushed. So
that's awesome. That's I've been heavily tempted to pick up some Zone Mortalis stuff, and then I try to restrain myself in with remembering how little I get to play. So,
well, hopefully that will change eventually.
Yeah. What
nice
BattleTech are you working on?
I'm working on some sweet clan mechs. I ended up getting suckered in thanks to Andy and another guy.
You're welcome.
And we played a few games with the local guys here. I ended up picking up a clan command star and then a heavy striker star. And I'm rocking out, painting him up, Clan Jade Falcon from the Iota Galaxy. So I've got a full star all painted, and I'm actually working on the second star now. So
that's good.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun, actually.
I picked it up, and then I backed the Kickstarter right before the end of the Wave 2 stuff, and I'm still waiting for all of that to show up, and it's kind of been a little disappointing. So
I hear you on that. I know I did the Kickstarter too, and I did both waves.
Oh,
so,
nice.
Like I'm getting like the big bundle deal that's supposed to be coming whenever that is, but it's going to be both, first and second wave, right? So
yeah,
lots of goodies.
Everything I ordered was first wave stuff, but they aren't shipping it until the second wave comes out. So like all of the stuff that I have is already in stores. And it's like, oh, well, I don't want to go buy it again and then get it later. But are you guys playing CBT or Alpha Strike?
CBT.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right now we haven't tried Alpha Strike. I was an old time player back in the 90s, and we've been going with classic. Bill just jumped in, right? Bill's literally like brand new.
Straight up like noob. I showed up with a painted star and some dice and no books, no rules, no nothing, and I was like, yeah, I'm here to play. And was able to fumble my way through a game. We ended up playing a 3-versus-2 Innersphere versus Clan mechs, and we just went off of battle value for Classic, but it actually was surprisingly balanced. Even though we were outnumbered, it didn't really feel like a one-sided game. It was actually a lot of fun.
It would help to have more experienced players on those first few games too. Like that would go a long way.
Oh, for sure.
I know. I ran my sons through a game, and then I was like, "Wow, these missiles are amazing! They're like so good." I don't understand why every mech isn't just like missile loaded out with everything. One of my friends are like, "Are you using the volley rules properly?" I'm like, "What are volley rules?" So, and then I learned that missiles aren't they're still good
as you
but
thought.
they're not as amazing.
Yeah, actually, I think that's what killed my Shadow Cat was a cluster of SRMs. Finally busted through me.
Yeah, but I was doing if it was like SRM 6s, that I was giving them 6 dice to hit, and then 2 points of damage per spot, and rolling all in the same spot. It was a little. We learned, okay? We learned. Everybody had fun.
That's what it's all about.
And that was just like our game too. We I was probably the guy who had the most experience, but it's been 15, 20 years since I played, kind of thing. And it was good because pretty much we were all new, we were all learning together, kind of thing. And a lot of good laughs, good moments. A couple of bachals called out there, and just trying to take out that inner sphere sea rat scum.
That's right.
But yeah, it was good. Bill had a reactor blow up on him, so his center torso pretty much exploded.
Yeah.
Excellent.
But it was good fun. Good fun. I know for myself, what I've been pretty much working on is just those white scars, trying to get them prepped and ready, and build some infantry for them as well. So lots of cleaning up and figuring out some paint schemes for pretty much each individual biker and whatnot. Trooper.
That for
And
30K
then,
or 40K?
For 30K for Horus Heresy. And then also, yeah, I've been, Battletech as well. And then working on some of the 3D terrain for Battletech.
Oh, nice.
Just printing stuff out. So, yeah. So it's been busy. It's been kind of busy since the beginning of this year, actually.
Yeah, it has.
Both like work and hobby. So, which is, for me, kind of seemed to be a bit of the norm. So, not many games, but it's starting. So,
there'll be lots of time for games, right?
Yeah, definitely going to be getting some bolt action in as well. I know me and Bill have a match planned, a training match, so that will be good, and get Bill some experience on that game as well. And then just start rolling dice, whichever game.
We had a big bit sale here on Sunday, and I say big, but it's one that got canceled, I don't know, 18 months ago or whatever. And so there weren't as many people out for it as maybe people were expecting, but somebody was selling, what was it? Stuff for A Song of Ice and Fire.
Oh,
I was
yeah.
like, oh, that'd be really cool. I'd really like to. My brother's really into that game. I could get into that. And I was like, no, don't buy more miniatures for games you don't play. And so that's why Bolt Action stays on the far away from me shelf. It's just like, no, I can't.
Well, hopefully the communities will come back together and start rolling out. And I know there's some new interest into it. And funny enough, talking with one of the store owners here, there's the Wednesday nights they're doing like the World War II nights, and apparently there's like Flames of War is picking up in the city here.
Oh, cool.
So that's another World War II game, which would be interesting. Who knows? Might have crossovers where guys might jump into Bolt Action. I might have to do some recruiting.
There you go. At least you know
But yeah.
they already know the lore.
Yeah,
That's right, yeah.
pretty good. So, but other than that, I think me and Bill too, just trying to hammer out some terrain.
Yeah.
So either building or priming or getting ready for paint.
Yeah, it's just a constant stream of work in progress stuff. Just really trying to hammer down and get Heresy armies going. Like, I have finished a bunch of my word bearers. I got more to paint and build. Then dabbling into Battletech, looking at my Titanicus stuff, going, oh, I should probably get back on that. And then terrain and everything else is just it's quite the list of games,
Well, that's how I feel, because then you add in all of the skirmish games that I collect, maybe not play, but with Frostgrave and Stargrave and all of those kind of games, plus Kill Team and 30K, and I keep trying to not get into AOS, but then I keep seeing cool models for AOS. So
even I was tempted by that Dominion box.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, sweet baby Jesus, I don't know.
I'm glad I didn't, simply because I'm super excited for the new Kill Team box now.
Oh, dude.
There's that story again, Bill.
So, pretty much I'll fill you in, and any of the listeners who haven't heard this yet, although I have mentioned it a few times. So, I've always told Andy that whenever he decided to finally, convert a regiment, be it with, the Victorian miniature third party or 3D printed or, just kit bashing his own regiment and moving on, that Games Workshop would wait for precisely that moment to release that regiment he picks in plastic. And not a week ago, he ended up telling me, yeah, I got some 3D printed Death Corps of Krieg models. And I was like, oh, really? Cool, man. I was like, you know what's going to happen? And then, like, for real, a week later, they showed that plastic kill team with Death Corps and Orcs.
Yep.
And I was just, you know, that's when you just, yes! You know, I called it, and they waited, man. They waited just for you.
So how many do you have, then?
So luckily enough, I was testing the waters, right? So I ended up buying a unit of infantry from this 3D printer guy that was on Etsy, right? They're really nice models. They're called Death Vision Daka Store, and so I ended up getting there's 12 guys that come with it, right? You have a sergeant that you can equip differently, and they have a guy with like the shovel, you know, the trenching tool kind of coming at you, right, with a pistol.
Perfect. Which none of the plastic models have, so
yeah, they got that mace or something. But like they're really, really nice, resin printed. The sculpts are great. They definitely do look like Death Corps of Krieg. Their bottoms are a little bit different, like their footwear is a little bit different. They're kind of more like metal kind of boots instead of just like the World War I French wrapped kind of boots.
Yep.
So honestly, if I am to continue with them, I may keep going with them. The only thing I found was they're pretty much the same price as Forge World.
Okay.
So they're very expensive. Like they have these Lehman Russes, which have that World War One look to them, and yeah, they're like, I think they're like 130 Canadian.
Good Lord.
So, you know, their artillery crews and artillery carriages are in the hundreds as well, and it's like, yeah, you know what, I'm gonna think about it. So.
All I was thinking was,
wait.
if you hadn't overly invested in infantry, you could always use them as like veterans or unit fill outs and stuff like that, where you can get away with mixing and matching. It's the same as I was talking to one of the guys I work with. He's got some resin Death Corps, but like because a lot of it's discontinued and everything, he's not sure what all they're bringing out. I was like, yeah, man, like just mix the two together. Like it's going to be hard for anybody to notice. I know that there's some parts, like there's some complaints about the shoulder pads and the helmets not being as squared off as the Forge World ones just because of the plastic process. I'm like, you know what? Like if you're picking that much of a fight, maybe you need to back off of your battle Barbies a little bit.
Go play Cadians. Exactly. No, like and that's the shit. Like if all we've seen is this plastic kit so far for Kill Team, right?
Yeah.
Really cool. I do really like them as well. I'm sure there's going to be a whackload of players jumping on that. It would be sad if GW didn't release a whole army of them, and it was just Kill Team.
They've already announced that they're releasing the plastic kit separate.
Okay.
The commandos and the stuff. If I had to take a guess at it, and this is purely looking at what we've seen over the last couple of years, I think you'll see this as a Dominion for AOS or Indominus for 40k, and the first Kill Team, where they produced a product that was a loss leader, so they're not making as much profit off of it. So you're getting really good value out of it, but it's launching a new product and it's going to be a limited run. Like all of that new orc themed ruins and stuff.
Oh yeah.
Like we've never seen that before. And the last Kill Team box brought out the new Imperial Sector ruins, and that was the launch of that line. So I think you're going to see that, and then to see those other kits. What I want to see is like, are they going to include, like, hopefully they include a command squad. Hopefully there's some heavy weapons. It'd be really nice if there were heavy weapons on the sprues, because I was even talking about how like I've had 3 or 4 Cadian armies, And it sucks when you're like, cool, I got to buy this sprue that's got, 2 guys and some weapons, and cool, I'm going to pay $30 for 6 guys. It's nice to mix the heavy weapons in with the rest of the squads.
Yeah, I was kind of. I guess they did it with like a unit selection, right? Because you were always able to have those heavy weapon teams as a separate unit selection. But no, I totally agree with what you're saying.
You could, but the new attitude has been that anything that's in a choice now is in a box.
Yeah.
Right? Where they've taken things out or they've added things to new sprues. Where they're like, oh, you can have a Thunderhammer on your Intercessor Sergeant. There's a Thunderhammer in the box now.
It's true. They've really gone the way of making sure that those box sets reflect the war gear choices in the codex, which is nice to make sure, right? Like it actually reflects the options that you can build your guys with.
Yeah.
Well, I think that.
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I think that mentality of creating units and not having the models for them is like way gone now. You know what I mean?
Oh, 100%.
So, Heresy is obviously going to hopefully start catching up with that. But yeah, as for like 40K, like they do a bang up job on any of these new releases that they come out with, right? Like all these models are getting new, like these armies are getting new models, an overhaul. We started seeing it a long time ago. But
quick note on the Heresy thing though is like I don't mind if it's something like here, buy these 5 heavy weapons because you can take all 5 heavy weapons, right? Rather than buying a box of resin that's like here's 2 heavy bolters and 2 missile launchers and 2 las cannons. I'm just like, cool, I want 5 underslung missile launchers. Sell me that. That I'm okay with. I like that, and I like that they've mated that up with the plastic kits. And I hope that's the direction they're planning to continue to go with, as they've done with some of the more specialized units.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I think it'll be interesting to see what comes out for Deathcore. I think they're going to release a few more things. I struggle to imagine seeing anything like a new Lehman Russ.
No. They're going to I think they'll do the infantry for the guard. They'll do the commands, they'll do the heavy weapons. Are they going to do the artillery carriages? I don't know. I don't even know if it's like I'm so far out on 40K myself, but I don't know if they're even a viable option anymore for the armies, for the Imperial Guard armies. I think they are, but don't quote on me on that.
It would be really nice to see a plastic Medusa come out, though.
Oh, heck yeah.
Oh, boy.
Right?
Conversion
like that
time.
Or even something like they did the Primaris upgrade sprues, and like the new one they put in the Cadian sprue, that they sent me that new box. Like I was really, really happy with the new sprue that they added in with all the pieces. Like it really fit seamlessly, but it also showed like a really new take on their direction of design, where things used to be physically sculpted and then physically put onto a sprue and then a cast made of that. Now they're doing everything in CAD so they can get things tighter, they can get things more compact, you get a lot more plastic in a box. So it'd be cool if they did like an upgrade sprue and they're just like, here, these are Krieger tank crews. So if you're taking Chimeras and Lehman Russes and Bane Blades and whatever, here's the sprue that you need, and this gives you enough tank crews for your guys. That would be nice.
Yeah,
that'd be pretty cool. That would be pretty cool.
That is entirely wish listing. That is, I don't have any secret information on that. So.
But I mean, even like character wise, like they'll end up making a Krieg Karmasar.
Oh yeah.
Stuff like that. They'll make the Quartermaster.
Yeah.
And who knows? They might be creating other things for them as well, right? We've seen that. So, but very exciting, very, very exciting to see what the rest of this year will bring for pretty much all the systems, really. AOS, 40K, Heresy, Titanicus, Kill Team, right?
really don't want to get my Heresy hopes up, but those pictures look so real.
I believe.
Yeah.
I believe.
Yeah,
I want to
more of
believe,
it.
that's for sure.
No, it's good.
I should say, because I noticed here on the notes here, you guys were asking about, because you asked me to come on and talk about streaming and stuff. So I'd started Twitch streaming.
Yeah.
And one of the things that they'd sent me was that they'd sent me a box of the brand new Cadians.
Nice.
Which was really exciting. That was like really nice. Like I've got a deal with, because I used to do the It Will Not Die podcast, and maybe one day I'll do that again. But they would send me promotional items for 40K, and so they'd sent me these new Cadians, which was really cool because I still have like 30 or 40 left over from just like, I never got around to building these models. So I sat down and I was working on streaming, and I did an unboxing video that I saved and then put on YouTube.
Yeah.
And I was really impressed with the new kits. It was something that when I actually saw it released, I said, I can see myself going and buying 2 or 3 of those kits myself to flesh out what I have, just to get the different head options, to get some different weapon options, and to add some variety to it. Like, one of the simplest thing that's in there is there's a sergeant hand that's a bionic hand, and he's just pointing, and it's got the sergeant chevrons on his cuff there and on his arm. Like,
okay, yeah.
That's such a minor thing that maybe, but like after painting 300 Cadians, I'm like, oh my god, that's such a cool detail. I'm so happy I can have a sergeant that doesn't have to have a chainsword or a las pistol, or I get some options there and I get to do some different things. And with the streaming, one of the things that I really wanted to push was because I talk about sitting down and being like, I pumped out 3,000 points of Death Guard in 3-4 weeks. Or there's famously a terrible, terrible, regrettable story of me procrastinating. I've never procrastinated. Definitely not to tell this story. Procrastinating painting an army for an event that was on a Saturday, and I'd spent time. I had everything built, and I built the display board and everything, and I didn't start priming until 8 a.m. the day before.
Oh boy.
And then I painted the whole army for AOS, 2,000 points, plus a little bit extra, and the display board and everything, and even managed to get best painted votes in bringing this in something that I'd painted in. The event started at 9 a.m. the next day. And I just, it was madness, but people are like, wow, you paint so fast. How do you do that? And I'm like, I don't really think that I've done certain things, or I don't know what it is that I do that makes it faster. But I got thinking, I was like, what would be really cool is to start a series. And so what I'm going to be doing on YouTube and with the stream is going to be doing, one of the series is Scala Gigantus, which is, because my joke, they always call me Gigantor because I'm small or something. But for the record, I'm 6'10" and 360 pounds.
Yeah, he's a space marine without the black carapace, basically.
Yeah, or basically a half Stardies. Halfway there. I don't have all of the genetic modifications.
That's right, yeah.
Or the muscle. But so I wanted to do this series, and so I started this Cadian army. They sent me the stuff, and I went and found a bunch of bits, and the idea is to show how to paint an army. Not just single models, but how I actually go through and painting. And I think I did on the one stream that I didn't record, because I didn't know how to do that button yet. Apparently there's one button in OBS that you just press that button, and it automatically records while streaming. So then you can just upload it to YouTube later. So I'll have to do it again. But I worked through 10 Cadians in about 90 minutes. And it wasn't me working at my flat-out speed. It was me talking and explaining and talking about what I was doing in that. But a lot of that is just learning the little tips and the little tricks and the things that go into, well, how do I paint an army faster? How do I get something that looks good on the tabletop? Maybe it's not amazing. Maybe it's not going to get you best painted votes, but it's going to get you painted models on the tabletop, which in my mind, personally, even though I can be a very good painter, my attitude is always, I would just rather see someone put some effort into painting. Like, it doesn't have to be amazing. There's that terrible meme that's got Jack Sparrow in it, and the captain's like, these are by far the worst miniatures I've ever seen, worst painted miniatures I've ever seen painted. And, and Johnny Depp's like, but they are painted. And I'm like, I'm fine with that.
Yeah,
I'm fine with that. Like,
it is true. You make a very valid point with that. Like, and I know me and Bill have gotten to that point now too, where, you know what, I'm not going to be an heavy metal painter, right? But I know I can paint decent, and I want to get my stuff painted to put it on the board. So I'm cool with getting it to a certain level, and I'm good, right? Like,
100%. Like, go ahead.
No, I was just saying there's guys that I know who, they've kind of asked just some things about painting and whatnot, questions, and it's literally the same kind of thing. You know what? Try it out. You might not be the best, but get stuff painted and get to a point where you're happy, right? So
yeah. And there's like, so I painted that Lionel Johnson last year,
right?
And like, by the time, because I timed it, because I was charging the customer, I took a little over 20 hours, and so like when he approached the group, because he'd done it through the black market, and somebody else had thrown out a number, and so we kind of worked with that, because he wanted things magnetized and the other guy didn't want to deal with magnetizing. The other guy's like a very, very high level painter, and he's like, no, if I'm doing this for like a display quality piece, there's no magnets, there's no nothing. And he's like, well, I want the lion to have weapon and head options, and I want to be able to use them in games. So, and I said to him, like honestly, I'm like, well, $400 then is like a reasonable value for painting a Primarch.
Oh,
because,
definitely.
We're talking about the time to assemble, magnets, all of those extra. I mean, there's all of those Night Lords on the base, which I love that base.
That's awesome.
There's, and the whole Primarch part. And I'm like, so realistically, we're talking about 20 hours. Yes, I can paint a 20-hour miniature. I can actually sit down, and if I can convince myself to take the time, I can spend 40 hours painting a miniature and make something that looks really good. I understand that I've learned enough, and I have enough artistic skill and talent that I can do those things and hone those techniques, but I don't want to spend 40 hours painting a miniature, especially not something I'm going to put on the tabletop that nobody's going to be able to see. So trying to just help people, it's the same as I've heard a lot of comments from people about, oh, I don't use contrast the way that it was designed for. And I think that's kind of a bit of a fallacy in it. It's how it was marketed, but I don't think that's how it was designed. Mm-hmm. We've seen other paints like this before with Minotaur ghost tints, which I know you guys had Carl Tuttle on the show.
Yeah.
He's the one listening to the independent characters was what got me into looking into these ghost tints, because he was talking about using it on his word bearers, and then I'm using it, and I'm like, and then I think I got some Vallejo transparent paints, because if you're ever trying to paint yellow, Vallejo transparent is just absolutely the way to go for that. Instead of painting yellow, you paint brown up to cream and white, and then you paint this transparent yellow over top, and it just tints everything yellow, and it looks phenomenal. And it's way less screwing about than trying to deal with actual yellow paint. And it's like, so these paints have existed. Games Workshop just put it out, and then they decided, like, hey, here's how we're going to market it to the general public. But then you start looking at people doing stuff, like you see Darren Latham and hearing that heavy metal painters are using contrast paints for skin tones, because they're like, yeah, you use Gilliman flesh as a skin tone, and you get 3 layers of paint. Like, you could do all of those other layers, but why wouldn't you cut corners when you can? So yeah, that's kind of what my goal with the stream is, just to do that. It's also to try and help grow the community, to show off, get people involved. I found that I wasn't painting for about 3 months. I didn't paint. And I started watching one of the local 3D printer groups, Scrimforge. They started a stream where they're streaming 40K games and AOS games, and they're just going to start streaming D&D campaigns. And then I was watching them, and then somebody else came in, and I was like, oh, I want to go see what this person's doing. I was watching. I found that, well, all of a sudden I wanted to paint while somebody else was streaming them painting. And then I could take a break from that, and I could put a comment in, or I could comment to something that was happening in that stream and in that chat. And then I could go back to my painting. It was kind of like, even though I'm downstairs in the basement by myself, I'm not by myself so much.
Yeah.
But I don't have to deal with people because.
So we kind of did that too. Not so much stream, but like on a Sunday night, one of the local guys, was, doing the call out of saying, "Hey, come join us," and working on our little challenges and stuff, right? So we would spend like an hour, and there's like 5 of us hanging out, and we had our cameras kind of going, so we can kind of see what we're working on, and then just chit chat and stuff about games and different armies and whatnot. So it's a real good way to get back into the game, painting, even building stuff. Just that there's that setting, right? You're there with some buddies, you're doing stuff that you guys love. You're getting stuff done, people are talking, you get different ideas. So it's definitely a lot helpful with either, hanging out with buddies or checking out podcasts or just whatever's out there, right? So definitely agree with that. And, once you get yours rolling, that'll be pretty fun to check out and put in the background and
Most definitely.
just start working on stuff.
I'm already subscribed to YouTube.
Well, thank you.
So that was the big thing. I think, especially with how COVID and everything went down, having the internet, having access to our friends on Discord, just like we're talking now, was a really big benefit, especially to keep like the hobby times going and staying connected. It definitely played a big part, I know, for myself, just being able to have the cameras rolling and we're all painting and doing our thing. And yeah, it definitely helped, because I know we met up quite a few times, and I think we'd like to start doing that again. Actually, because that's the server we have for the Warriors Lodge. So It was nice to get that rolling. And it's to touch base back on what you were saying about just getting stuff painted. I know a mantra that someone shared with me is finished, not perfect. And that actually really stuck with me, and it still has, for how simplistic it is. But you can spend 20 hours on a model and you can keep going. Like, I know my Lehman Russ, I got about 16, 17 hours into him, and he's really good. I know I could go longer and harder on him, but again, it's a model for the tabletop where I'm actually using it as a playable model. So, putting the 50 hours into a model that's not going to be entered into, a Crystal Brush or a Golden Demon standard, to me, I'm happy where my army is and that particular model is, and it's still usable as like an actual game piece. So I think it's definitely something to keep in mind when you're painting. And we've mentioned it before in a few podcasts, with painting for yourself. Why are you, make sure you're painting for yourself and not to compare yourself with others on social media, because it's very easy to get caught up in that Las Vegas-esque atmosphere on Instagram and stuff. You're like, wow, look at all these wonderful artists, and my stuff, I can't even come close. I'm out, right? Like, it can be a little discouraging, but a lot of these people, such as yourself, are willing to stream or willing to comment and share tips, and that's why I can't recommend the the YouTube and streaming enough, and we'll definitely make sure your links are in here because I'd love for people to check that out. I know myself, I'm interested in the process that you're going to be going through on painting an army quickly.
Yeah, well, and kind of the attitude with it, and a couple of points to hit on that is, when you talk about the social media part, a lot of what you don't necessarily see is like, now a lot of people talk to me, and I get comments all the time on social media, especially locally, and people are like, "Wow, you're one of the best painters in Calgary." I'm like, well, I know for a fact that isn't true because I know some of the best painters in Calgary, and then I see things on social media, and I'm like, "Wow, I could never," or maybe not never, but I'm not interested in that. Where you talk about, yeah, I could spend 50 hours on a Lehman Russ, but if I only have one painted Lehman Russ, I can't play a game with that.
No.
Where I could spend 50 hours and I could paint a whole company of Lehman Russes. And they're not going to be, as amazing, but get close. I think another thing too is even just trying to get that community back. I know that missing gaming and getting into stores has been hard for a lot of people. And I know not everywhere in the world has the same freedoms and lack of restrictions as we necessarily have right now, for better or for worse, that may be.
Yeah.
And people are still battling through this and aren't done it. So getting that sense of community, whether it's posting in a Discord channel or chatting in a Discord channel or joining a chat or posting on social media, your work doesn't have to be amazing for you to be proud of what you've produced as an art product. You could be proud of what you've done because at least you sat down. I know for me, a big battle that I have with that actually fuels my mental health depression struggle is being frustrated that I don't paint enough. Because I'll look down in my basement and be like, oh man, I should have painted today because, I've got 2,000 unpainted miniatures of my own before we even talk about getting into stuff that I'm doing commissions for.
No doubt.
Yeah.
And so that becomes kind of a point of shame. And sometimes it's like, hey, don't buy new models because, you still haven't painted those ones. Or sometimes it's, well, maybe you should sell it. I mean, it's been 4 years that you've had those Gene Stealer cult guys.
Yes.
If you're not going to do anything now, and if you want to do them, they still sell them, so
Yeah.
there's some things where it's like, cool, I've got Battlefleet Gothic ships. Well, maybe I won't sell those because trying to get those back could be challenging. But there's other things where it's like, well, you know what, like, cool, you want some Gene Stealers? I got Gene Stealers, you can have them. But anyway, my point was trying to get that community there, trying to get people to produce what they're happy with. And maybe you're not happy with your work right off the bat. I actually keep the first ever miniature I painted here on my desk. And it's awful. It's terrible. But I always try to keep it there to remind me of this is how far I've come, as well as this is how much further I can go by looking on things on social media and reaching out. I also find that because I've had a chance to meet some really incredible hobbyists, it seems to me that actually, irrespective of what their trade or industry or what it is that they're really talented at, often the most talented people are the most approachable and willing to share what they know, because they remember when they weren't as good, or they always remember, but I could still be better. And so I find that when you find like really, really talented artists or musicians or tradespeople, like really the best of them are all willing to sit down and teach things and want to help you to get better. So yeah, I don't paint as well as Angel Gerald is. But I sure did go out and buy his books because they're fantastic. Like and some of the stuff like painting busts, I don't know if I'll ever sit down and paint a bust again, but there's even color theory things in there that are really useful. So, going on, checking out stuff on Twitch, checking out stuff on YouTube, throwing out some follows and subscribes, like it goes a long way to help those people get some more exposure. And maybe that helps somebody, one day you're cruising along and you're like, man, I wish I knew how to paint Ultramarines like Andy does.
Yeah.
And then one day you stumble upon it and you're like, oh, wow, he does it like that? That's way easier than I thought it would be for such a beautiful looking army, because it is a fantastic looking Ultramarines army, even if it's Ultramarines. I hope that you'll paint the Ultramarine for the base for Argyle Tall for Bill.
Oh, he wishes.
I hope you do.
It's funny. It's funny you mentioned that, because our friend Darren, he ended up giving me his Ultramarines, and he wanted me to do the same colors onto his Marines, right? So I told him, okay, well, I'll do the base colors. I'll do my highlights and stuff that I did for my army, and you just work on them slowly, right? Because he's having troubles painting for long periods of time and whatnot. But you just do the details and stuff and go at your own pace. But I'll do this work for you, right? And sure enough, like it was like 100 Marines and like a whole bunch of tanks, dreadnoughts, jump troops. And the nice thing was it was giving back to him as well, right? So, and the thing with it too was there was a couple of Marines, like actually more than a couple of Marines, but there was a lot of miniatures that needed some care. Some of them were pre-owned and needed some repairs and adjustments and stuff. So I did that all for them. But just to have gotten them all done in a weekend, and like with the airbrushing, where I kind of just got into it and maybe a few months down the road, it was nice to get that progression going. It was nice to get all that practice to do that blue. So when it comes to Bill's Argyle Tal, that should be no problem to do.
Much appreciated.
I just might take Argyle's head off of the model or something.
You won't actually get Argyle Tall. You'll just get the base.
Yeah, you'll just get the base. Well, I won't lie. Painting that Word Bear's Leviathan I did for my buddy Aaron.
It was gorgeous.
Painting all of those dead Ultramarines
yes.
on the base. That was probably the best part of the whole model. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, good fun. No, I forgot about that model too that you did up. That was a nice one.
Yes.
One of these days I'll finish the rest of the army.
Oh, for sure. That a lot of word bears creeping up, man.
That Leviathan gave me a lot of inspirations when I was, looking at word bears and eventually started my own. Like, I really liked the look of it, and I didn't quite emulate it, but it gave me something to kind of work with in my mind. And then I was able to experiment with contrast in a way, again, not necessarily the way it was pitched, but a way that it actually worked for me. And yeah, they turned out decent, so I've been happy with that process. But yeah, that Leviathan was pretty legit.
Speaking of not just a contrast, but painting things, like even like the first time it would have been recommended to me to use purple as a shade color for red was like my brain exploded.
Yeah.
Where I was just like, what? What? How does that work? And then working through it and figuring it out. And then I picked up, I've been buying some of them slowly, these ammo by MiG shaders.
Oh, yeah.
So like little droppers, and they're great. But I was having a problem. I couldn't get them to work. I couldn't figure out why I was having such a fight with them. Same with some of the inks that I was using. And then I was watching a YouTube video, and someone just casually throws out, oh yeah, make sure you put a matte varnish down first, because the surface tension helps these shaders grab into where you want them and be more directed. And I did that. I used a matte varnish first, and I was like, oh, wow, this is so much better. I feel like an idiot.
Just a game changer.
Yeah.
Just a huge game changer, and something that's so minor that I wouldn't have thought much of. Whereas if you're doing oil paints, there's a lot of benefit to putting a gloss varnish down first.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
I know it's funny with each, like, I guess each army that I've so far that I've kind of done on the various systems and stuff. Almost every army's there's a little bit of a different technique or a different product that I've tried to use, right? Like the White Scars. After talking with Bill for a while, and Bill's been using that streaking grime. I decided to pull the trigger on my White Scars. I was a little afraid though, right? Like, okay, how is this going to work out? I don't know. But the minute I tried it out, I was like, oh my goodness, this has just changed everything for me, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So it's just another tool to use, and like I'm just looking at it, and I'm like, okay, this is a pretty neat shade. This works well. It gets into where I want it. This is going to be awesome for my World War II miniatures. Those earth tone colors and whatnot. So I can't recommend like literally going online, checking things out, doing some research, talking with people, trying just new product or material, like even if it is just one bottle of something, right? So it's nice that there is just tons and tons of material out there to learn from, to use, to practice with, to play, anywhere from if you're still doing the old brush thing where all your painting is brushwork. Well, there's so many different options now for brushes out there and whatnot. You got your airbrushes as well, and just different ways of doing things, powders and whatnot. And the nice thing too is like one of my good friends, he's been in the gaming industry for so long, but he's not, he says to himself he's not a great painter, right? And that's cool. He ends up taking the contrast paints that they came out with, and he just loves them, and he gets armies done. And you start looking at them like, they actually look really good. He's like, oh no, they're like a 5 foot away kind of army, right? But yeah, you know what though? They're tabletop ready, and they look good. Bravo! Like that's awesome. That's your style. You're happy with that? Roll with it, man. So,
yeah. And that's where with this Cadian army that I'm working on, which probably might end up using some Deathcore Krieg, but anyway, with that I'm doing with this project of teaching to paint armies, I'm actually not using an airbrush specifically. Like I took that out. And in the first one that I didn't record, so I have to re-record. I even talked about the fact that I'm using Rust-Oleum camouflage spray paint from Walmart.
Oh yeah.
Because it's $8 or $9 a can, and it's you know what? 100%. There are better products out there. Some airbrush primers or getting Games Workshop Chaos Black. I mean, there is not. I think I've never run into a better miniature primer than Chaos Black.
It is pretty sexy,
but it's expensive.
It is.
Yes. And I was like, okay, well, how do we cut that out, or how do we trim some of that? And even with the colors and and saying like, yeah, at the beginning you learn to dry brush, and then at some point, everybody kind of gets told, oh, dry brushing's like a really amateur paint method. I'm like, yeah, but now that I'm getting more experience, I'm getting back into it. And I'm like, man, you know what? Dry brushing has its place. There's times that I do it because it just speeds things up. So that's a lot of the attitude. I think there's so much information out there depending on what you want. Maybe sometimes too much information, but I mean, that's the curse of what you got. Compared to when I started painting and we had White Dwarf magazine.
Yeah.
And you got to read about things. It wasn't until literally 15 years later that I actually learned how to stipple. because I'd read, oh, this guy stippled these Eldar models and they look really cool. I'm like, cool. I don't understand what he's trying to accomplish. And I tried to do something like it. I'm like, this isn't turning out like what they're talking about. And then I like finally watched a video on it. I was like, oh, well, they didn't say that in the article. That's not what they, or you get like those old White Dwarf articles where it's like step 1, step 2, step 3, somewhere magic happens, and step 4, it's finished.
It's heavy metal. Yeah, that was.
That is exactly.
God.
That is exactly how it is.
Yeah, that was like no lie. That was like 20 plus years ago. That's how the White Dwarfs used to be, and you're like, huh, okay.
Not even. I would say even 10 years ago, where YouTube tutorials weren't very big. So I think there's a lot of room there. I think there's a lot of stuff, and I really encourage people, like I said, like if it means that it helps people sit down and hobby, because I just happen to turn on my camera at the same time that I'm hobbying, perfect. Like, because that's what other people have done for me. They've done hobby. I'm like, oh, you know what? I really should sit down for, you know what? Maybe I don't have an hour or 2 hours, but I got 20 minutes. I can sit down and I can do, some armor plates on some Cadians, or pick out some skin tones on these crazy Sinbad miniatures I'm painting.
Absolutely.
Any little bit of time helps, right? Like that's the one big thing too for guys who are out there painting and who might be just kind of starting to paint and might think it's a bigger challenge than it really is. Every little bit that you put into it just helps you get further through it, right? Like, I got 10 minutes. You know what? I can do the white buckles or the silver buckles on the jackets for 5 guys. Boom, done, right? Yeah. And you just continuously do that, and next thing you know, it's like, oh, wow, I got these 50 guys done. Sweet, right? So I know that's been working for me, and I know, like, there's times where me and Bill are just chatting, over the phone or over Discord, and that's what we're doing, just chatting and painting. And that's it.
No rhyme intended, but for real, 20 minutes a day goes a long way.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
The other one I'll throw out there, too, is especially as some of us are starting to get older and having families and stuff, like getting that time to sit down and drop 50 hours into a Lehman Russ or whatever it is, like, oh my god, I just realized you were talking about the Primarch and not the tanks.
That's okay. I was rolling with it either way. It still made sense.
The worst Primarch. Anyway,
whoa.
Yeah. But I lost my point by coming up with that brain.
You're talking about getting old.
Family and old.
I'm talking about getting old, but family and stuff. Like having that time to say, well, I'm going to spend 300 hours painting an army.
Yeah.
Well, I don't have 300 hours anymore.
No.
If I've got 300 hours, I could probably spend 200 of that with my kids, and that's going to go a lot further in their lives than me playing with my toy soldiers. So there's part of that of trying to do that, and the other part too is sometimes I'll feel like I don't want to paint, or you don't want to go to the gym, or you don't want to exercise, or there's something that that needs to be done, but you don't want to do it. And I'm like, you know what? If I just go sit down 15 minutes, I'll set a timer for 15 minutes. If at the end of 15 minutes I still don't want to paint, then I won't paint. But if I go and paint for 15 minutes, lots of times I find that, or if I start working out or doing my stretches that I need to do, you spend a few minutes doing it and you're like, okay, this isn't so bad, or maybe I'm motivated. And it's just getting that initial start isn't always easy, but if you can trick yourself into that, I think I read an article once, many, many years ago, that was like, paint an army in 15 minutes. I was like, whoa, how do you paint a whole army in 15 minutes? And then the point of the article was, do it in 15-minute chunks. Yeah. Like you're waiting for something,
yeah.
Or you threw box pizza in the oven, or you ordered pizza and you're waiting for pizza to show up at the door, and you're like, man, I got 15-20 minutes till they show up. I'll go and, like you said, I'll paint the buttons on 5 guys, or I'll go paint the black on 10 las rifles. And you're like, oh well, I accomplish much, but then you realize, well, that's 20 minutes I'm not going to spend later because I'm 20 minutes further ahead now. So if you can get those little chunks in there, that can often go a long way.
Most definitely. Most definitely.
No, it's good, solid advice, right? Like,
Yeah.
Especially if there's anybody who is just getting into painting, like, by all means, hit us up. Just let us know what you're going through, and if you want to ever jump on the channel or something or whatnot, and just kind of chit chat about painting and actually paint, we'll have stuff open and get people on there. And I think even with the Warriors Lodge, we'll start that up again, I think, just to start getting things rolling. But yeah, it's amazing. Just that little thing can help. A couple of minutes here and there, or just sitting down with some buddies and just talking and painting lets you get your projects done and whatnot. So that's kind of what I've, in the last, I don't know, since the beginning of this year, really, because we went into our big painting challenges and we threw it out to the communities and even did some giveaways, right? And I know we did Bolt Action, Legion, some Heresy, Necromunda, Titanicus.
Yeah,
did we do Titanicus? Yeah,
oh yeah,
Titanicus as well. And we got some stuff done, and other guys got stuff done too. So nobody was playing,
push in the right direction.
Yep.
So, and as you were saying about getting the ball rolling and stuff, Calgary is starting to pick up again for the gaming. We're starting to see more 40K games get booked. There's about 6 of us right now that I know of off the top of my head who are getting the dust off of our 30K armies and starting to look at that.
Oh, very nice.
Just trying to see how things go, and now everybody's trying to figure out how to beat people in person again. And but no, but the even the one store, the Ogre's Den, that's the one that's closest to my house. And I think you guys were there. You came down for a tournament when we were doing the charity tournament.
Yep.
They've now relaxed the restrictions and they've got their tables back together. So they went from having 6 tables in their gaming space to they're back out to 17.
Oh wow.
And so people are getting excited about that. For the whole time when they were having games, once the restrictions had eased to stage 2, they were you had to reserve a table ahead of time. Mm-hmm. And they were doing it like you had to basically you could spend $10 store credit. Like you bought a store credit for snacks or just put it on your account for credit, and that reserved your table just to make sure that people were actually using when they were making reservations. So you're not using, saying, oh, I'm going to go play a game. And then, somebody could have been playing a game and you back out. So they've removed that. So you don't have to pre-book your tables anymore. They're getting all the terrain back out and getting stuff. So that's going to be exciting. And I think some of us are getting excited about actually putting minis on the table again.
Oh, that's going to be great. I know we're definitely looking forward to running smaller type events. I don't think I'll be doing a whole lot of renting out of halls or anything this year in particular, but being able to host, a 10 or 12 man event is definitely kind of on the docket. And I know we're looking forward to trying to connect with our Heresy brothers down in the south, so it'd be nice to definitely get some games and get some FaceTime with you guys down there as well. So we're always willing to make the trek out and roll some dice and just
I think the big attitude I've seen from a lot of people here though is a desire not to just rush into things right away and just
baby steps.
Baby steps, and to remember, like, we're not 100% over this, so we got to take our steps. But I'm hoping to see that. I also wanted to talk to you guys about maybe seeing if we could do something where we host 2 events in different cities at the same time.
Oh yeah.
and kind of do a loyalists, and you guys are on Planet Shithole Edmonton, and we're in Planet Awesome Calgary. But fighting over maybe like two places in the same star system,
Yeah.
or two different things to just kind of mix it up a bit. Maybe we're still not face to face in the same place, but still getting that interaction and getting some community built back up.
I definitely like that idea, especially being able to, like you said, if we're both fighting over two different spots and the scores can kind of, all get pooled together and it kind of continues to ramp up in a story. That would be actually a lot of fun.
So things to look forward to.
Could tie into some of our projects that are being worked on.
Oh yes,
behind the scenes. So there's definitely some planetoids to fight over. I'll just leave it at that. So
excellent. Well, I look forward to it. And,
sure.
I won't make you spill any of your secrets here live on air. Might as well save some of the good stuff, especially now that I threw something at you.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. Well, again, thank you so much for jumping on the channel with us and just, talking hobby, painting, heresy, and, just sharing little tidbits with the viewers. And for everyone out there listening, please be sure to check out those links in the description and, like, share, subscribe to Justin's YouTube and jump on his Twitch, because I think you'll learn quite a bit on there, and he's definitely got a lot of talent and skills to offer. So,
if nothing else, you get to laugh at my gigantic hands assembling miniatures. Because I sent the link to one of the guys that I work with, and he doesn't do miniatures. He just, he'd heard me talk about them before, and I'd showed him pictures, and he watched the YouTube videos like, how do your hands work with stuff that's that tiny? I'm like, I don't know, man. This has been the way it's been for the last 20 years.
Just happens, yeah.
And there's even a dick joke in there, but I'll let you guys let that one drop. Well, thank you. I do appreciate for you guys reaching out. It's good to come on and get chatting, and I miss seeing you guys down here in Calgary and coming up to Edmonton. So hopefully we get to see more of that soon.
Exactly.
definitely.
Awesome. Well, thanks for tuning in, guys. We hope you enjoyed the episode, and we will catch you guys next time.